I just finished Natsume Soseki's novel Kusamakura. It's quite a short novel. This is the second Soseki I've read. I read Kokoro, I think it was last year, and I quite liked Kokoro. This one is quite a bit different. It's basically a poem. It's written in prose, but it's very lyrical. I think he said that he wanted to create a haiku-like novel, and it does feel very much like a haiku, like a very descriptive poem. And the book itself also deals a lot with the meaning of poetry and art and stuff. Plot itself is about this man. He's 30 years old. He sort of doesn't see himself as a young man anymore, and he's an artist, and he decides to go off into these mountains. It's written with the backdrop of the Russo-Japanese War, so very early 20th century, middle of the Meiji era. Japan's had this huge upheaval in modernization and industrialization, and this book seems to be sort of coming to terms with what does that mean for Japan, or what does that mean for civilization, this sort of modernity. The steam train plays kind of a big role in this book, where it's referred to as the serpent of civilization. So he goes off to this sort of hotel, or this hot springs, or it's this sort of retreat way up in the mountains where civilization and industrialization has not yet caught up. It's very much a place stuck in the past, but he's the only guest there. There's no one else there. And I don't know if that, to me, that sort of shows that everyone has moved on past this sort of idyllic, traditional setting. Everyone has moved to the cities, to the industrial heartlands of this new era. And in going there, the artist tells himself that he's going there to paint ostensibly, but he describes sort of worldview during this trip as being non-emotional. This is all in translation, so this is the word the translator used. But non-emotional, as sort of the artist is trying to remove his own feelings from his experiences during this trip and just wants to sort of take it in as an observer, is what I understood it to mean, and to sort of observe the world from the view of an artist. And throughout this book, aside from just the very descriptive images and visuals of the countryside and of going on different walks and of sitting beside ponds writing poetry, a lot of it is philosophy on what it means to be an artist and what it means to write poetry and to paint, and a lot of not heavy stuff, but stuff that I think I need to read the book a couple more times, just because I'm maybe not as bright to sort of fully get. But I really did like what I did read. And of course, at the hotel, there's this woman who, she's not a love interest. She is a love interest for the artist, in that the artist sees her as sort of someone he could fall in love with, or someone he could experience love with, but again, he's trying to be non-emotional and is not giving into his feelings, and so he's seeing her as sort of almost a trope, as sort of a setting piece for this great drama that is his sort of vacation in this hot spring hotel. And her story is talked about a bit. She had been married and she had separated from this man, and the villagers, or the people around this mountain village, kind of look down on her for that and say that she's not a good girl, you should stay away from her. And she does seem kind of flirty when she does talk to the artist, and they have different interactions. Her story sort of echoes a previous story that's mentioned about this girl many years ago who had married someone and then had committed suicide. But in terms of plot, there isn't really that much plot in this book. It's quite short, and like I said, it's more of just poetry and philosophy. There's a lot of poetry written within this book, so the artist in the story never actually paints anything, but he does compose poetry quite a bit. But the philosophy, he's musing on sort of different worlds. He references a lot of Western European art and literature, as well as Japanese, Chinese literature as well, and comparing and contrasting the two, and how each different artist sees the world and what each artist is trying to represent. But this is also the world of the modern and the past. And so at the end of the book, there is a character who's going on a train to go to Manchuria to fight in the war, and the narrator's constantly describing how when he enters that train, he enters another world, one separate from the world of this sort of idyllic mountain hot spring. And there is someone else on that train. So this woman who had left her husband, there is this moment near the end where the artist is laying down, composing a poem, looking up at this plant, and he manages to compose this beautiful poem, and then he hears someone, and he sees the woman who he's been seeing flashes of now and again throughout this book, like very striking sort of visual images of her, like in moonlight, or her standing on this rock over a pond and whatnot. He sees her again, and this sort of rough-looking man approaches her. They seem to have some sort of interaction, and he turns to leave, and then she pulls out a bright purple money purse and offers it to him, and he turns around to accept it. And that moment is like, it's written so well that you can, like, I almost want to go and try and paint it. You can visualize that image, the contrast between the sort of rough, impoverished man and this beautiful, elegant woman, and sort of a harsh distinction between them, and this money purse, the splash of color. Anyways, and it turns out that was her husband, or had been her husband. So we don't really know why she had left him, or why he's impoverished, or why she's offering him money. But again, at the end of the book, she asks the artist to paint her. And he says, well, I can, but I feel like there's something missing in your face. And she's like, well, this has been my face since birth. How can there be something missing? And he's like, well, our faces are always changing day to day. And then at the end, when they're letting this, I think he's a servant or someone who's getting on this train to go to the war. As the train's passing, they see one of the other passengers on the train is her husband, or her ex-husband. And the artist then notices her face has this look of pitying love, as the translator calls it. And the artist finally says, like, that's what was missing. Like, I can now paint your face now that it's complete. And that's how the book ends. I don't know what else to say about it. It was just less plot, more thought. It was like lots of imagery, lots of poetry, lots of thinking about what does art mean, lots of comparing the modern and the traditional, comparing Western and Eastern. Very sort of mid-Meiji or late Meiji era novel. I really liked it. I like Soseki. I liked Kokoro. I like Kusamakura. I've got another book of his that I'm going to read. I'm sure I'll read many more. Now, on the title, I think it's also translated as The Three-Cornered World, which is a reference to a scene near the beginning of the book when he says, quote, I suppose you could say that the artist is one who lives in a three-cornered world, in which the corner that the average person would call common sense has been sheared off from the ordinary four-squared world that the normal inhabit. So a three-cornered world is this world where that's sort of lacking the common sense that everyone else has. And that's how artists see the world. They see the world differently. They don't have this common sense, again, in translation. Anyway, that's Kusamakura by Natsume Soseki.